Okay. All right. Mel, I am so excited to have you a part of the sisterhood. I, from the day I met you, I felt just the most amazing connection to you. And we were both kind of in the beginning of our sober, curious journey and just seeing everything unfold with your life and with your purpose and how you've created this amazing community and your Instagram and TikTok. It's not me, it's booze. I mean, from the moment I even saw the name, I loved it. And your your videos are so relatable. I'm always just like every single video you post, I'm like that was me when I was drinking, or that's me now. Like I love it. So I'm welcome you to the sisterhood. And we are talking today about how really you taking a break from booze launched you into having this superpower of finding your purpose. And then I'm just going to let you take it away.
Awesome. No, Tiff, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I love what you're doing. You know, from when we first met, I really connected with you straight away. So I've always loved what you're doing, and you are the bomb at making content. So you set the standards high. So I'm going to be talking about today is my experience of when I took a break from booze and how I use that as my superpower. A lot of the time when we think about breaking up with booze or not drinking, it can feel like a sacrifice. And I know when I was toying with the idea for so many years, and I just was so scared to do it because I always felt like I was missing out on something. So today I'm going to talk about what was actually happening for me when I was drinking and what made me want to stop drinking, and then what I did to be able to make that decision, and then what I found from giving up alcohol. And we are going to talk a lot about values today because this is the important key factor of what helped me give up booze. So I'm going to actually share the screen now because I have a presentation. So let me just get it. I am one of those people that has a lot of tabs open.
Oh, me too. I always have like 100.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Just wanted to show you what's on my computer. Let's go.
I love Canva.
I know, so do I. What? I just had it here. Tiff, we might have to start this again.
Oh, no, okay.
Oh my God, what is wrong with what's happening today? I've done this whole presentation.
I can actually cut this. Like we'll keep it recording and then I'll just cut all of this out.
All right, this is it. It just didn't show up. All right, let me.
Is it retrograde or something?
I don't know what is going on. Okay. Everyone just says it's retrograde, right? Okay. So take a break from booze and taking a break from booze and finding your superpower. So a little bit about me. I grew up with my grandmother in Hobart, Tasmania. For those of you who don't know where that is, it is a little town at the bottom of Australia. So it's like a little island. So people in Australia don't even think that Tasmania is part of Australia because it's this little island that sits by itself. So I won't be disappointed if you don't know where it is. So I grew up with my grandma. My parents were around, but on their terms. So I suppose whilst I had a good relationship with my parents, it was really hard to connect with them because I hardly ever saw them. My relationship with alcohol started when I was 14. and it did start strong. I was also diagnosed with bipolar type 2 at 15, and that having that diagnosis when you're 15 and back in that time, I had no idea what it was. For me, I was just very depressed. I didn't want to socialize. I would cry in my room all the time, and I couldn't talk to my parents. My grandmother didn't really understand it. So it was a really tough time. And I think a lot of that was probably to do with my childhood. But at the time, I didn't really know why I felt like that. I had a suicide attempt with alcohol and pills at 15. My grandmother did support me through this. But again, my parents really couldn't understand what was going on with me. As a lot of people in my generation, it was it was you were meant to just get on with life. So I didn't really go to therapy when all this was happening. I just had to keep going. So I kept going. I worked in hospitality, and I was still using drinking to really self-medicate and also just party. I was partying so much. And when you work in the hospitality industry, like a lot of you probably know, that is the lifestyle. So you're partying, you're working, finishing work at 10 p.m. and then getting home at 6 a.m. So, and then going back to work. So that's just the cycle that you did. Managed to finish a business degree and then worked in sales and events. And if anyone has worked in sales and events, you would know that that is has a very huge drinking culture too. As I grew older, so I was in about my 20s around then, I did a lot of alcohol, I did a lot of speed, and then as I grew older and got more money, I did cocaine and drank so much alcohol. It was normal for me to go on 3 benders and then be back at work at 8 a.m. If you'd known me back then, you probably wouldn't have thought I had a drinking problem. You just thought of said that I liked to party. And because I was capable at work, and I was very driven at work. I was very career focused, but alcohol did get in the way of my life outside of work. But if you knew me, you probably wouldn't see any of that. At age 27, my nan passed away and my mental health started unraveling. Again, I used alcohol to cope. I was self-harming, and I made a lot of decisions through that time that I really regret. Well, I don't regret because it's made me grow, but there were a lot of things that were happening for me. Like I fell out with relationships, my partner nearly left me. Um, I was fighting with people and I just wasn't happy. And still didn't think alcohol was a problem. And I also had a lot of guilt and shame with everything that I was doing, because alcohol was just it was it it was part of it, but I never thought that alcohol was a problem. I thought it was me, because I thought the only people that had problems with alcohol was somebody that couldn't keep a job or somebody that was on the street. I never thought that I was part of that. At 31, I attended my ex's funeral. So this was a guy that I dated when I was younger, and it was a very intense, toxic relationship. We used to take a lot of pills together, and we were in that party scene together. And then when I went to his funeral, he actually passed away from suicide, and it was a very, very sad time for me, because it brought up a lot of past trauma. It brought up a lot of unresolved issues that I had with him, and it was a bit of a wake up call, because I knew like the depression that he had, and I'd had that as well. And he had also used alcohol and drugs to self medicate. And I could just see like this was so close to home that I didn't want to see myself going down that road. And so I decided to see if taking 30 days off alcohol would help. And after 30 days, I was like, wow, my mental health actually feels good. Like, how does my mental health feel so good when I've been battling with bad mental health since I was 15. I've been diagnosed with bipolar twice, and I've just given up alcohol for 30 days and I feel so good. And so I finished off that 30 days with a bender. Of course, what else do you do? I did 30 days, so I had to party for that, right? But that started my sober journey. So I kept doing 30 days, then I would go on a bender, or just, and then I'd do another 30 days, or I'd do 100 days. But I was kind of playing with the idea of being sober for about 2 years. And then I quit. So when COVID happened last year, a couple of years ago now, wow, the time has already gone really fast. I quit alcohol, and it just something changed in me that I was like, I am going to give up alcohol because I could see myself unraveling again. I could see myself going and getting cocaine and doing it at home and doing it every weekend, especially when COVID hit, because I worked in events. So there was no work. So there was nothing to wake up for on the Monday. So it was easy to just go on these benders again. And I just said, my life could go two ways now, right? Like I could either just keep doing drugs, nothing is ever going to change. And I'm going to be stuck in this ongoing vicious cycle of hating myself, or I could make the change. So I quit alcohol, and this is what happened. I gained confidence and clarity to quit my corporate job. So whilst I was in events and we weren't getting work, I was still working. I was very grateful to still have a job, but it wasn't aligning with who I was. And I'd been thinking about quitting for a while, and I'd always had this anxiety because I was going out for these long lunches and doing cocaine with clients, but it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and I was having this anxiety about it. But when you're on a high salary, to go to nothing is very scary. So it can take some time to get into the mindset to do that and even have the confidence to do that. So by quitting alcohol, I was able to gain confidence and clarity to quit my corporate job. And to do that is a massive decision because you have to back yourself and you have to be open to earning a lower salary to do something that you believe in. So I went back to uni to study psychotherapy. I also did a coaching course. And then I knew that I had to get some part-time work while I was doing uni. So I stopped listening to my ego and started part-time work as a support worker to help pay the bills. And for me, I've gone from this lavish lifestyle, taking clients out, doing whatever the fuck I wanted, traveling interstate for work, to going to support work where it's a job where the money is a lot less. And to be honest, it wasn't as glamorous. But I knew that I wanted to help people. So quitting alcohol gave me that clarity to not listen to my ego and give me the confidence to not listen to ego. All that glamorous shit is bullshit. If you're not happy, that is absolute bullshit. So I started support work and I loved it. I loved my clients. I worked with people with disabilities and my clients were incredible. I learned so much, and it takes so much strength to be in that work, and it built my resilience. I became more social because I had more energy and I wasn't dealing with hangovers. Not dealing with hangovers gives you so much more time, which meant I had the time to do all these things, to work full time and to take up heaps of shifts with support work. My partner of 9 years finally proposed, and we're actually married now. But honestly, if I hadn't given up alcohol, I don't think that would have happened. He was actually my carer. There is a time when he said to me, I actually feel like your carer. I can't do this anymore. My friendships got stronger because I could be present in conversations and be really there for them. A lot of the time when I was drinking, I didn't have time for people, and I was again having this ego, and I just wanted instant gratification, and that's all I cared about. So if I wasn't getting anything out of you, then I probably wouldn't give you the time or be present for you. I started a business that helps people take a break from alcohol. So I've always wanted to start a business, and that was one of the key things that helped me give up alcohol. I knew that I wanted to start a business, but I didn't know on what. And when I gave up alcohol, it gave me clarity of what I wanted to do, and that was help other people. And help other people through this process of giving up alcohol or taking a break from alcohol, because I know what it feels like. It's hard. So we have to look at the way we're not missing out when we give up alcohol, and we don't have to think about it forever. I've had slip ups in my time of being sober. I haven't just been full-time sobriety the whole time, but I have broken out of those unhealthy cycles with drinking. And that's the aim. We're not looking for sobriety here. We're looking for growth, and we're looking for the work that you get to do when you're sober. So alcohol was restricting me. It was restricting me because it decreased my clarity and motivation. It's a depressant. It acts as a sedative on your body. So while it can put you to sleep fast, After a few hours, the body starts fighting to eliminate the alcohol from the body. This process affects your REM sleep, which is responsible for boosting memory, concentration, and learning. A night with poor REM sleep can lead to problems focusing at work the next day. And this is facts, guys. When you're not getting the sleep when you're drinking, you think you are, but you're not. And then you're waking up and you're tired and you're irritable and you can't concentrate. How are you supposed to achieve these goals that you have in your life when you're just trying to survive from the day before from your sleep? So you're always going to be on catch up. You're always trying to catch up because you're always going to be behind. And this is when you can have good sleep and not be taking something that is going to be a sedative on your when you can have good sleep and not have something that is affecting your sleep, you're going to have the clarity to do the things that you want to do. Alcohol caused depression. Guys, I had bad mental health. Anyone that knows me back then, like my husband's friends used to call me a bag of snakes because I was just so up and down and you never knew which one you were going to get. It depletes your serotonin. Whatever comes up, yes, you might feel that high for a little bit, but it has to come down. And alcohol releases dopamine, but that only lasts for 15 minutes. And then you'll feel it drop, and that's when you'll crave another drink. And that's the thing, guys. The first peak is never enough. You will try and chase that peak over and over again in the night. And why I would go to Coke, because alcohol wasn't enough. I had to go to the cocaine. But the first peak is, you will never get that feeling again because it only lasts for 15 minutes. And the depression lasts for a lot longer. I was never present in the moment. And I said this before, alcohol ruins your threshold of fun. And now I say this, the threshold of fun is because the things that you would have found fun younger and growing up before you started using alcohol for every social situation is no longer there, because alcohol releases so much dopamine, and it's artificial dopamine, that it makes all the other things that you do just not seem fun because you're not getting that much dopamine, because no other activity can give you that much artificial dopamine so quickly than alcohol does. But the thing is, it's fake, it's not real. So you will always be, well, for most of us with our brain, everyone has different brain chemistry, but for me, it always resulted in days of depression. And the thing is, like, when you stop drinking and stop ruining that fun threshold, you will start to see the simple things in life fun, like going for a bushwalk, hanging out with a friend for coffee. You'll get excited for those things again. And it won't just be about, when can I get my next drink? When can I, oh, we're going to that party, let's make sure we have drinks prior. So, yeah, you will feel more fulfilled when you stop drinking. Alcohol caused me to make bad decisions. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to have a drink of water. So, alcohol caused me to make bad decisions. Alcohol does loosen you up, but it also decreases some of your anxiety of the prefrontal cortex. Sorry, some of the activity from the prefrontal cortex. Now, your prefrontal cortex is your executive brain. It's your intelligent brain. But the problem is, when you drink, it blocks that and it stops that part working. It disrupts it, which is pretty crazy because we need that part of our brain to make rational decisions. So when you're telling that secret that you're not supposed to tell, when you're kissing that guy, like this guy that I'm going to the presentation, that you do not want to kiss, or you get yourself into that difficult situation or an unsafe situation, it's because of the alcohol has turned off that intelligent part of your brain. So a lot of the times we're feeling so much guilt and shame for this stuff that we do when we're wasted, but actually we didn't have control in doing that because alcohol has turned off any intelligent decision making that we have. So it's important to realize that you don't have control when you're drinking, when you're binge drinking. And if you want to be the person that you set out to be, if you want to turn up for yourself, then you're not going to be able to do that if you keep drinking. So, how did I break my binge drinking cycles? And again, I am not against alcohol. I do think there are, everything is okay if you use it the right way. But for some of us with the brain chemistry we have, we find it very difficult to use alcohol the way that it was meant to years ago, because everyone's brain's chemistry is different. I could have one drink and my husband has one drink and I'm feeling super high and he's about here. So when I'm feeling super high, I just want more and more and more because I get more endorphins released from alcohol than he does. So my dopamine is getting released. Large amounts of dopamine is getting released for me compared to my husband. And that is how our brain chemistry is different. So how did I break my binge drinking cycles? I asked myself the 5 whys, and you can use this for anything. And for me was, why is giving up booze important to me? I will stop doing stupid shit when I'm drunk. That's surface level, right? I was stop doing stupid shit when I'm drunk because that was true. I was doing so much annoying stuff, like, 1 minute I'm killing it at work, the next minute I'm doing stuff that could jeopardize my job. 1 minute my relationship's good, the next minute I'm jeopardizing the relationship. Why is that important to me? If I stop doing stupid shit when I'm drinking, I'll have less guilt and shame. Guilt and shame eats you up. And again, if you're trying to achieve things in your life, if you're trying to create a life that you want and you're blocked up with guilt and shame, you have no energy to do the things that you want to do in life. You have no energy to be the person that you want to be. Why is that important to me? If I have less guilt and shame, I'll have better mental health. I wanted good mental health. I was sick of being up and down like a yo-yo. It's very tiring. And people don't know what they're going to get. And I don't even know what I'm going to get. So with no guilt and shame, I would have better mental health. Why is that important to me? If I have good mental health, then I'll be able to start my business. So then we're back to the core reason why I want to give up alcohol is because I wanted to start a business. Why is that important to me? Because if I started my business, I will be able to have freedom. And freedom was one of my biggest values, is freedom. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to start a business, is because I wanted freedom. So if giving up booze meant I could have freedom, then it really hits home to me. It's more than just giving up booze because I'm doing stupid shit. It's because it relates to a value that I have. And this is the exciting part. Everything comes back to values. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values become your identity. Values are individual beliefs that motivate people to act one way or another. They serve as a guide for human behavior. Values reflect what is important to you and makes you happy. If your values don't align, it causes anxiety because you are not being your true self. Now, values are your instructions. They're your instructions to be what you be. So when you think about that job, when you think about that relationship, are they meeting your values? And thing is, when I was drinking, it was not meeting my values because that's what the anxiety was causing. I had this little voice telling me, you've got to stop drinking, you've got to stop drinking, you've got to stop drinking. Why? Because it didn't align with who I wanted to be. It didn't align with what was important to me. Right in my core, what was important to me. So here's just an example of values. So there are words here that you can see that you would choose like 6 values that resonate with you. And, whether it's like efficiency, empathy, performance, happiness, it's good to choose about 6 that really resonate with you. So here are some examples. Why values are important. So again, we've spoken about values, but values identity. I want to really drill this in. Values identity. It's an identity is a manifestation of your values. Your values shape your identity. When you have a strong identity, it gives you security and comfort. Knowing your values is the foundation to make any decision in life because you know what choices are aligned with your true self. When your values are aligned, it gives you confidence because you are living your truth. Knowing your values allows you to set boundaries when needed. Knowing your values allows you to have healthy relationships because you know what your needs are. This is when you know your values, you can back yourself 100% because you know what you need and you know what your boundaries are. Where do your values come from? Now, the importance of doing value work, especially when you're later in adulthood, is because a lot of our values that we think that we have can be from our childhood or from a workplace or from school. And so it's important to have a look at, where are your values from? So generally people have predisposed to adopt the values that they are raised with. People also tend to believe that those values are right because they are the values of their particular culture. So yes, they can be culture values, family values, health service values, media values, like what you listen to on the news. So many things can influence your values. Values can change as we enter different environments through our lifespan. So you can see there's a Bronfenner environmental diagram, and this is kind of goes through your different environments through your lifespan. So you can see as you start as a child and you just see how your environments expand as you grow older. So as when you are first born, it's your guardian or your mother and father who gives you your values or influences your behaviors and the way you see yourself, and then slowly your network expands as you grow older. In our early childhood, our family influence our values, and then as we get older, work and relationships can influence our values. So I'll send this presentation to Tiff, but the questions that you want to ask yourself, how have values influenced you? So what values did you have growing up? And it's good to just write these out. One of the values for me was respect growing up. How those values influence your decisions as an adult? Well, I always showed respect to my elders. There was, my grandmother was quite strict growing up, and I was taught not to talk back and just kind of accept what was said to me. So I did, when I worked, I was very, very, what's the word? I was a very good worker, but I probably got taken advantage of quite a bit. But I found it hard to stand up to people because I was just chose to respect people that were in charge or in roles of influence. Have those values influence how you see yourself? Yes, they have, because values can, your values that you get taught when you're younger do influence you. Have you ever had conflict with these values? There are times when you can have conflict with these values. If there was another value that my mother had where she wasn't very open. So she was like, for me, I now have a value of openness, but she never had that value of openness. So growing up, I didn't tell people a lot of things. So, you can get that kind of those behaviors from your parents, but it's not actually something that you believe in. Hope that resonates there. But just have a think about what values you've had since you were a child, and are they actually aligned with what you are now? I mean, I'm become more spiritual as I've grown older. But when I was younger, I just believed, I was brought up in a Christian family, and then I went away from the church because they didn't align with my values. But now I'm more of a holistic kind of spiritual person. So I don't follow one God. But when I grew up, I was taught there was just one God. Okay. So I hope that resonates there for you. How do you find your true values? So think about what 6 values mean the most to you. Really feel it. So say for me, loyalty, I can feel that in my core. Loyalty is so big for me. And that was the thing, when I was drinking, I wasn't loyal. So that's why I didn't align. But when I'm sober, I am loyal. I'm reliable. I will turn up. Whereas if I'm drinking, you won't. If I make plans with you on Sunday, I probably will not turn up. So you just got to go through that list that I showed up before and just pick out 6 words and just see how they feel. And another way of thinking about it is, sounds morbid, but what would you want someone to say about you at your funeral? And, for me, I would love someone to say how loyal I was. One of my other values, like I said, is freedom. I would love someone to say that I was a free spirit. Equality is another value for mine. You know, I want people to say stuff like that at my funeral. So have a think about, like, you know, what legacy do you want to leave? When you have the things that are most important to you in your life, how does it make you feel? So you choose things that, so say I love running my business, I love helping other people. How does that make me feel? It makes me feel really, really good, but it also makes me feel that I want to be doing, it makes me feel good because I'm having these values into my business. So I'm very loyal to my clients. Like, I turn up when I'm meant to turn up. I you know, I'm there for them when they need it. And it's just making sure that these values are being incorporated in your life. When I worked in sales, like, I wasn't aligning with those values. Like, I was doing whatever was right for the company. Another good way to think about it is what pisses you off. And now I always think about, when you're not getting those values met, does it piss you off? So, say with equality, if I see something that's not fair, it pisses me off, like really pisses me off. If someone isn't loyal to me, really pisses me off. So, you've got to try and feel the emotion with it. And these will help you come up with your core values. Again, the value sheet, just so you can have another look. So that's another little activity that you can do. And that is just, you just write out, what do you love to talk about? And we would have done that if there were people here, but we are going to, so you can go through it yourself and you just write down 5 things to these questions. So what do you love to talk about? Like, I love to talk about coaching, self-development, sobriety, and you write 5 things for each section. And then at the bottom, select one answer from each column that inspires you the most. So say if you write down, so coaching inspires me the most. And because I like coaching, I know that it makes me feel important. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm getting my needs met. So it's just a good way to find out, when you write these things down, what areas of your life that you're doing, that you are getting fulfillment in. And lastly, it's finding your superpower without booze. So the thing is, when you are drinking, it's really hard to use, if your values aren't aligned and you don't know your values, you can't use your superpowers, because your values are your superpowers. Because when you know your values, you can make shit happen and you can make the life that you want. So I've wrote down some of my values here, and loyalty, control, compassion, playfulness, growth, knowledge, connection, empower, equality. I didn't put freedom there, but that is one of them. And then when you look at my drinking traits, they're all the opposite. And I think it's like an important thing to see is that if your drinking traits, and like I said, not everybody is like this, your brain chemistry is different, but this is my experience, that I was not aligning my values and I was doing the complete opposite. So this is, so you've got to look like, was I thinking that I was going to get those values when I was drinking? Like, maybe I thought that I would be empowered when I was drinking because it helped me be more confident, but really it wasn't, because it would make me super lazy the next day. So it's kind of like, you just got to weigh up, like, is drinking giving you what you want and what you're trying to get? Because we're always trying to search for our values. Even if we don't know them, we're trying to search for them. So, you know, control is a value of mine. Yeah, it can, that could be perceived as negative, but also having the value control means I can create a business because I don't mind taking control. But if I don't know that value, then when I'm drunk, I can also be trying to be center of attention and try to do toxic behaviors just to try and get that control, or be in relationships that are just me trying to get control and not letting the other person have a say. So it's just trying to make sure that you aren't drinking to get those values when you could get those values somewhere else. And I just put a scale there. So say with drinking, does it give you control? And if on a scale of 1 to 10, it gave me 2 of control. But if I do if I do something like create my business, it gives me 10 out of 10. So it's showing there that once you know your values, you can use that as your superpower to get the stuff you want in life. So I will end on that note. But if there are any questions, just ask Tiff and I can send through some answers about those values there. But yeah, it's honestly, even if it's just a break from booze, if you can just do this value work when you have clarity, it's really going to help set you up. And also just change your relationship with alcohol, because when you stop relying on alcohol to get that gratification or to make you feel good or whatever you're trying to achieve, you'll be free to do the things that you should be doing and that will align your true self. Thank you. Thank you. Is that what you said at the end?
I was just gonna say, so I wrote down some comments and like questions, but first of all, I just wanted to say how much I resonate with your your drinking story and all of that. And I think so many people will resonate with that, and because there's so many. I know, especially the part about that you never really thought it was an issue because you're just like you're functioning like same with me. Like, I owned a business, I was teaching workout classes like sunrise to sundown, and then you're just like going out and drinking or partying. It's not even you're drinking. I had never even bought, like, I've never in my life bought alcohol for myself. Like, I've never been the person that's just like drinking a bottle at home. I've never done that. So I never thought like, oh, just going out and partying with friends is an issue. But then, yeah, when it's affecting, your decisions, your life, how you treat people, that whole thing, like it is an issue. And I think so many people will resonate with that. And then what else did I write down? Oh, I wanted to ask you, like, when it comes to your slip ups, how have you like gotten back up from that? Because I'm sure there's going to be people out there who, resonate with that. And the fact that you've even been so honest and open about that, I think is so incredible. But yeah, what if there's anybody out there who has slip ups or might have slip ups down the line, how have you gotten through those? And
Yeah, it's, I always think slip ups are part of the journey. Like, there are some people that can become sober and stay sober for the rest of their life, which is awesome. But the journey is unique to the individual. It's, you give up meat and you become a vegan, and then just because you might eat meat again doesn't mean that you're not a vegan. Like,
Mhm.
it just can happen sometimes. And especially, you are living in a world where everyone drinks. So it is really hard to sometimes stay on the journey and stay super motivated about it. And
Mhm.
when you have, like, I had a slip up and I had it around my wedding time and on my wedding. But you just got to get back on it, because the goal is to break those unhealthy cycles, and I
Mhm.
didn't fall into those unhealthy cycles again. Like, I think when you've got confidence to pick yourself up afterwards, like, I know my values, I know what I'm here to do in life. So I can't let drinking sabotage that. So when you've got your purpose and you know who you are, you just
Mhm.
pick yourself up afterwards, because there's no point feeling guilty about that when it's happened. And you've got to give yourself compassion, because it can happen to the best of us.
I think that's great advice because, yeah, it's one of those things that I think if someone, I think I talked about this on when we did our Instagram live, but in that one book that I was talking about, he talks about how when people are so obsessed with the perfection of not drinking, that a lot of times they slip up even more
Mm,
than if they weren't. So, if they just like let it flow. So I think it's going to happen to people. And so I think the advice you gave is so important and needed. And
mm,
and then I wanted to talk about the sleeping part, because I was thinking when you were talking about that, how when I owned my fitness studio, I had so many moms that would come in to the 6 a.m. class, and they would drink a bottle of wine like before going to sleep and come in and do the workout class, and they were always like, they couldn't give their all in the workout, but they were so used to doing that that it didn't feel like anything for them. And it's like so important that people know that, yeah, they might be functioning still, but it's affecting their body and it's affecting their sleep. So I feel like that was such a good point to touch on, is the sleep
Mm.
factor.
And
And
the
that
thing is, like, if you want to make changes in your life and you have all these goals, like I've had this goal of starting a business since I was young, like since I was 20. But how can you
Mhm.
do that? How can you be creative and think of all these new ideas, especially if you're working full time, if you haven't had any sleep?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and sleep affects, I mean, it affects, pretty much every mental health disorder as well, depression,
mm,
anxiety. And then, yeah, which is the other thing I was going to talk about, is the what how you were saying the stupid shit while drinking. I mean, I think that that's the thing, is that it causes so much anxiety. And if you're if you that anxiety, it's funny because I've seen so many videos that people put out online, especially on TikTok, about people literally saying like, I have anxiety from drinking this past weekend, or I have anxiety from last night. And it's so normalized to have that after drinking anxiety, but it's not normal. Like, you shouldn't have to be going through life having this anxiety, like that's not a
oh,
normal thing to it's normalized in society, but it's not normal to be doing something to your body that is causing you such extreme anxiety.
yeah,
So
you're putting your body out of balance. And, on a Monday at our sales meeting, we used to go around the table and see what our anxiety levels were out of 10 because everyone's just had a big bender on the weekend.
yes,
Like,
that's the last thing that I was going to touch on too, is well, two things. So the first one was that I love what you said about really thinking about the legacy that you leave and what would people say at your funeral. Because I mean, if you're known as like the party girl who is always just a mess while drinking, probably at your funeral it's going to be like party friends, and they're not going to really you know say a lot of deep things about you. So I think that's something that's so huge to think about, but also the corporate thing and drinking, because that is something. When I was in my younger 20s, I was in a 5-year relationship, and my partner was in corporate tech company and was drinking. His company, they literally every single meeting, they had happy hours like every day at the office, drinking dinners, drinking like events. And every single one of my friends who works in corporate, even still in their 30s, they're drinking. Like, I could literally think of so many people that I know, and they're every time they go on a work trip, a work, like they're literally drinking, and then they're telling me, I wish that I wouldn't, I feel horrible. I wish that I would just like, not do it, but then I'm left out of all the work events. So I have never worked in corporate, so I don't really have advice on this, but like, what would you say to those people that want to take a break, but they're like in these they environments that it's like all around them?
yeah, well, I did take the last half of working in corporate, I didn't drink. And I like my tips were because I still had to go out. So,
Mhm.
if you can miss a few corporate stuff like at the beginning of your sober journey, like just at least the first month, and just like kind of like if you could just really just make sobriety your priority. Like if you go, just go for like the first hour and then leave and
Mhm.
tell people that you're not drinking. Like that always helps just for the first month because the first month is super triggering. And but it's not always going to be like that. The thing is, it does get easier, but if you can just give yourself some space to be able to get through that first month of sobriety. And I think the second month, then you'll be a bit stronger, and then you can go out and just like drive to the event. So I have driven before, and then I'd leave my car, like get towed, but because I've been end up drinking. But if you can go to the event and like go to the bar first, get a glass of non-alcoholic something. Like if they don't have any non-alcoholic options, get like a sparkling water and get them to put a little bit of lime cordial in it, because then it looks like a champagne and no one will question you. As long as you've got a glass in your hand when you first get there, no one will question you. And it's that ritual of holding the glass. And just like think in your head, like if you're there to make sales, like try and get to know as many people in the room, because you'll find that you actually might operate better. Because I find when I'm not drinking, I'm more present, I'm learning about people, and I'm not like just like flickering around from person to person. Like you're there, understand what you're there for, focus on that, and you're not there to get pissed with them, because at the end of the day, they're not real relationships anyway. You want to start building real relationships with your clients, and then you will actually get meaningful relationships and meaningful, if you're in sales and get like these, you'll get sales. But you know, you can do it. It is possible to work in that environment and be alcohol free. But if you can give yourself that space at the start, just because it is a lot to get used to, and surround yourself with sober communities, like even like, you know, the sisterhood here, like, you know, Tiff, you've got a knowledge about sobriety, like there's so many Instagrams to follow, people to reach out to, and just embrace yourself in the journey. That would be my advice.
I love that. Yeah, I actually told one of my clients who was struggling with the FOMO aspect of like corporate partying, and I told her to like make it exciting when you're planning a day for yourself and you're not going to drink. Like make it exciting, like make it a date with yourself. You know, I told her like have a bath, pick out a movie, so that it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm missing out on something, you know. But I love,
but even like sometimes when I used to go to corporate events over, like I would go purposely get my hair done beforehand, get my makeup done beforehand, because I wanted to feel fucking hot.
Yes.
And when you feel good, you don't care. Like you just want to go in there, do what you're there meant to do, and then leave. Like, because if you're having all these brilliant conversations, and you know, if that's the stuff that lights you up, if it's connection, like people that insight sales or in that type of role and normally get energy from connection anyway. So if you are there to make that connection, get the connection. You don't need alcohol to feel that high.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, all of my friends in those positions, that's exactly what they're looking for, is that connection, but they think it's through the drinking. But yeah, they really just like feed off of being an extrovert and talking to people. So I think that's such good advice. But this was amazing. I think this is going to resonate and really be powerful for so many people who watch the replay. And where can everybody find you? What is the information on your membership? And yeah, tell us all the deets.
Yeah, so I have an Instagram called It's Not Me, It's Booze. We have a membership for people who want to take a break from alcohol. We have wellbeing workshops. We also I have a 5-week course, which is really good to do. You can either do it self-paced, or I can support you doing that as well. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram or www.itsnotmeitsbooze.com.au.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much. Is there anything else?
Thank you for having me.
Yes, perfect. If anyone's watching, I'll put all the information to contact her and her Instagram and everything as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tiff. See you, everybody.